hello there, my fellow photographers. This is Mark O'Brien, and you've probably going stir crazy yourselves right now. I know I haven't been, because even though it's been over 2 weeks into our stay-at-home orders, I'm always finding things to keep myself busy, and I'm wondering if what you're doing out there to keep yourself busy as well. I mean, photography can entail lots of different things, and some of that has made me go back, this time off has made me go back and look at slides and negatives I hadn't looked at for quite a number of years. And turns out there's a lot of photography I did back in the 20 teens that those negatives never really got shown anywhere. So I've been scanning those in and going through them and finding that I did indeed take some pretty decent photographs, and I'll try and get some of those together in a forthcoming zine under Monochromania. And I'd like to talk about some things that you might be interested in doing. One is trying a different camera format or different size, and or even something that's maybe not up to our modern standards of what you might be used to in shooting. One of those would be the Kodak 135 camera. This is a Kodak Pony B, Model B, and it has a very nice Kodak Aniston lens in it, 51mm, a very slow maximum aperture f4.5. However, don't let that deter you from trying one of these out. They also have a bulb mode, speeds from 1/25th, 1/50th, 100th, and 1/200th. A very limited number of shutter speeds, and obviously apertures go from f4.5 to f22. The lens pops out. It collapses when you're storing it, pops out when you want to shoot it, so it's at the right distance from the film. It has a very simple shutter cocking mode here, and then a shutter button. These aren't bad, and they're so abundant and relatively cheap, and they almost all seem to work pretty well. So if you're looking for something to try out, load one of these babies up with some ISO 100 black and white film and go out and start shooting with it. Color film works great too. The lenses are coated, and they have a very nice rendering. Why go out and spend a lot of money on a lomography camera with suspect many things to go wrong with it, when you can find one of these for less than 20 bucks somewhere and go shoot with them? I really recommend the Kodak Pony if you want something different to try out. You can also go to half frame format if you want something that's a little bit different too. It's 1/2 of a 35mm frame, 18 by 24mm. This is a Canon Demi S, and the meter in it does not work, but all the shutter speeds work just fine. So I'm experimenting with this one and see how it works. Most half-frame cameras are a little bit more compact than their full-frame size cousins, and you can check these out. There's Canon Demis. There's the Olympus Pen series of EE is the equivalent of the Olympus Trip in half-frame format, so you can give those a try. I recently reviewed the Olympus Pen EE on Random Camera Blog, so if you're looking for some information about that. One of the things I have found while I've been looking at my old slides and negatives, and that is I wish I'd kept much better journal records of where I was and what I was shooting. I've gotten much better at that over the past 5 or 6 years, but going back in some of my journals, I look at that and it's like, this is what I shot. We stopped in some town and I shot some photographs. It's not really telling me very much except to where we were and on the trip. And of course, when you're looking at images from those trips right afterwards, you'll remember exactly where you were. But 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road, those details get a little bit more fuzzy, and then you kick yourself for not keeping better records. My journals have been various sizes, from this size to pocket-sized books, and I've been finding that the pocket-sized book is okay if I just want to jot down a few things on a trip where I am and so forth. But at the end of the day, I might take those little notes and put them into a much bigger notebook here, and where I'm keeping track of everything in greater detail. And that's, for me, has been a much more useful activity, especially now that I have more time. It seems now that I'm retired, it doesn't really matter, does it? But it's very useful for me to go back and I insert things in here. So if I took photographs with an Instax camera, places I went, little mementos from these trips. Those are very useful things to look at down the road later on, and especially if I'm writing up something many years later about an image. I'm not so interested in what f-stop I use and things like that. Basically, where the hell was I? What camera was I using? What roll of film did I shoot it on? Things like that. So this is a good time. If you haven't kept a photographic journal, you might want to get in the habit. It's not, again, I'm not so interested in what the actual settings were for an image, because in the end it doesn't really matter so much. What matters is where I was and what I was trying to shoot and what other things were going on at the time. So to me, those are far more interesting down the road. And it's still, if I have now been going back there and then entering, after I've developed the film, entering any information after I develop the film, and I'll have that on the negative sheets with a date and so forth, and then I can go back in my notebook and say, oh yeah, I developed these, and the following frames were from this, and they look really good, things like that. So I know you probably had enough of me talking, and so I want to wish you all a good day during this COVID-19 temporary setback for most of us. And get out there if you can, do some shooting, do some things around the house, maybe do some still lifes, some self-portraits, whatever. Or to me today, I decided, well, I'm just going to do a video and talk about it. So you all have a good day, and goodbye for now from Weaverville, North Carolina. Mark O'Brien out.